Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Hedera community call for September 2024. I'll just leave this up on the screen for a sec. So you can tune into this call in multiple locations. You can follow the Hedera Hashgraph YouTube channel and watch a live stream there. There is also a live stream on Twitter, which has just started. So look for it on Hedera Devs. And you'll also be able to follow along with me live tweeting what's happening in this call. Just scan the QR code, which also includes will include the links that are from this presentation as well. So, everyone's ready. Let's begin. So, I have with me over here Joseph and Sahil and
Hey.
Abby. Hey, everyone. So we're going to be presenting today, and I'm just going to be the DJ for this call, more or less. That's what I usually am. But for today's one, I'll actually be co-presenting with Abby, right? And I'll let each speaker introduce themselves before their own section. So first up, myself. Here's all the things that I've done, I guess, professionally. I think the only interesting one is the first one, where I was a zookeeper for a bit. You can follow me on Twitter, YouTube, and read my blog. The links are in the left and the connect with me over there. And this is what we're going to be covering in the community call, right? So the first section will be featuring Abby and myself, as I mentioned before, about building on Hedera and how we're improving its developer experience. Next, that will be followed up by Joseph, who will be talking about HIP 1037, about protocol buffer specification. Then we'll have a short interlude, followed by Sahil, who will be presenting using QuickNode on Hedera. And then we'll wrap up. All right, so time to introduce our first speaker, who is Abby. Abby is my colleague in the DevRel team, and she largely focuses on core components. She also has a rare skill, which makes her especially suited to this next part of the presentation. She has the ability to role-play as a particular type of developer, which is actually quite a difficult thing to do. And she's certainly much better at this than myself. So I absolutely had to ask her to be a part of this presentation. Abby, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thanks, Brendan. So my name's Abby. I've been with Hashgraph for about 2 years now, developer relations. My background is as a software engineer. And something interesting about me is that I own 4 dogs. And you can see them here on the screen. I've got Charlie up on the left, Nori on the right, Luna is the husky, and then Snuffles is the one that you may have thought was a cat, but he is a dog. That's me.
Yeah. All right. I wish I had that many dogs. Okay, so Abby.
Yes. So in this section, the aim is to show all of you just how easy it is to build on Hedera, and also to convince you to build as well. While we're at it, we thought we might show you some of the behind the scenes work that goes into actually making that process easy for you, and how we continually make that developer experience better and better. So Brendan and I will be co-presenting this next section.
All right, thanks, Abby. Before we begin, let's very briefly touch on developer relations as a practice area. Not as a whole, but just the parts of it that go into a Hello World experience for developers who are building on Hedera for the first time. So the first step is to know who our developers are, not on an individual basis, but rather in archetypes. So think segmentation, personas. Here we see an example of a developer persona, and it's all the details about a fictitious developer who represents a particular segment of developers that's deemed important. At the bottom, you'll see discover, evaluate, learn, build, scale. And this is where you start designing the developer journey for this particular persona, which segues into the developer journey map. So for each persona, the second step is to map out the details of each stage of the developer journey. This is done by answering the questions that you see at the top and using those to identify internal and external touch points, which you see at the bottom. right? So let's reorient those stages that you saw vertically and think about the developer journey as a series of funnels, each of which has its own conversion rate, meaning that only a percentage of developers in one stage will move on to the next. And let's assume that all of the stages have a conversion rate of 5%. We end up with a vanishingly small number that actually make it through till the end. Next, let's assume that instead of 5%, we have a 10% conversion rate throughout instead. We have a small number that makes it through to the last stage, but it is a significant improvement. The point is that improving this conversion rate has a compounding effect, so it is very high reward. And that brings us to the aim of for this exercise. What a DevRel team would do is to focus on one persona, and for that persona, focus on one stage of their developer journey, and within that stage, focus on one touchpoint. The aim is to optimize that touchpoint. Now, this requires some research to find out exactly when and why a developer stops developing. A usability test is designed to extract these insights, and the DevRel team then conducts the research amongst itself and then rolls out the conduct of that same usability test to the broader community of developers. All right, so now it's time for a live demo, and Abby will be role-playing as a developer from the Web3 emerging segment, right, who is currently in the learn stage of their developer journey with Hedera and is interacting with the Hello World tutorials touchpoint. Here's an example of a flowchart for the conduct of a usability test, which you see on the left, and also some sample questions and prompts on the right. And these are mainly focused on identifying developer friction points. All right, Abby, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's make sure that I've got your screen shared. All right. We see, Abby, we see your screen on the live stream now. All right. So now Abby is, like I mentioned before, Abby is going to role play a participant in a usability test. And so let's begin.
Mm-hmm.
Hi there, Abby. Welcome to the usability test. Thank you very much for participating. Your participation is going to help improve the developer experience on Hedera, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So the first thing I would like you to do is to perform a guided usability test. So this is where I'm going to be explicitly telling you what to do next, like one instruction after the next. Okay. The second thing is going to be a guided usability test, which will follow immediately after, where I do not give you any instructions, like specific instructions. I will just tell you, like, accomplish this, and then it's up to you to work out how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
Awesome. So let's begin. So the first thing I'd like you to do is visit the URL, which I have already sent to you, which I see that you have on the screen. So that's github.com/hederadev/5-minute token launch challenge, right? And I see that you're already there. And in the README, if you can open in Gitpod using the green button. Excellent. So have you used Gitpod before?
I haven't used Gitpod before, no.
Okay, so Gitpod is a cloud development environment which allows you to run a software project and edit it and etc. all within your browser, and you don't have to set anything up on your own computer. So that's why we use it, especially for those who are new to developing on Hedera. Okay, and you can see over here on your screen that you have Visual Studio Code, which is an IDE loaded up, but it's all within the browser. Are you familiar with using VS Code?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Excellent. Okay, so you'll feel right at home, except that it's now inside of your browser. If you could you hit, I'm assuming you're on Mac, could you hit Command plus 3 or 4 times so that the font size is larger? That just makes it easier for me to see. Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing I'd like you to do is go to the terminal, and you can see a line in purple saying, please enter values requested or accept defaults, right? And then there's a few prompts. So I'd like you to just follow my instructions as to how to fill in these prompts. So for the BIP39 seed phrase, just hit enter and it'll generate a new one for you at random. And then for number of accounts, just hit enter and you'll get several accounts. Likewise, for JSON RPC endpoint, just hit enter again to accept the default that's been set up for you. And finally, for operator account, we want to use the first one that's been generated from our BIP39 seed phrase. So again, just hit enter to accept the default. All right, now do not hit enter. Copy that EVM address, which is the one in bold that starts with 0x45. Just copy that. Yep. And then open up faucet.hedera.com. You can hold down Command and click on that URL. Excellent. Thanks. Okay, now here, paste the address inside of that text box. Press the receive button. And then pass that captcha test. And press confirm. All right, so we see successfully sent, which means that this account has been funded and we're good to go. So you can close this faucet tab now. Excellent. Okay, so now we're back in Gitplod and go back to the terminal. And now that we funded the account, now we can press enter. All right, so it's doing its thing where it's checking the accounts and creating new ones for you. And now it's saying, okay, here is a .env file. Now, if you can, go to the list of files on the left and open up the file that's named .env. Excellent. Okay, so this is the default file with nothing in it. Now, if you go back to the terminal and hit Y followed by enter, right, and you can see the .env file has been initialized with whatever our inputs have done earlier on. So this allows us to start using the script in the file, and that brings us to the end of the guided usability test, right? Mm-hmm. Now, how did you feel about that? Was there anything about that tricky or confusing?
No, everything went really smooth. I was able to fund my account pretty easily. And then I have some nice accounts created for me with just pressing enter over and over again.
Yeah. I'm glad that you appreciate that. Now, the next part is maybe going to be a little bit more difficult because it's going to be unguided. So what I'd like you to do at this point is to verbalize your thoughts. In other words, what are you thinking? What are you considering, etc. Just narrate it out loud for me, so that I can sort of assess what you're, so that I know how you're approaching the task at hand. Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay, excellent. And so for the guided usability test, your task, right, is to launch a fungible token on the Hedera testnet. And the clue is that the script has been provided for you already. That gets you almost all the way, and it's inside the SRC folder within this repo. So take it away.
Okay, great, thank you. So I see here that in my source folder, I have a JavaScript file that seems to have a lot of code already done for me. The first thing that I'm going to do is probably read a little bit about it and figure out if the comments are going to tell me anything. So here I see that we have a function called script 5-minute HTS token launch challenge. It's reading some environment variables. It's initializing the operator accounts, which look like they're coming out of the .env file. And let's see. It's taking that information, saving it into these variable names. And it looks like this is going to be setting up a client. I'm not quite sure what a client is going to do just yet, but it looks like it really needed that operator ID, which was in my environment variable, and a key as well. Here it looks like we're setting the token name, token symbol, And there's a lot more code. So I think I'd like to just start figuring out what it does. So I'm going to try and run it. I'm going to clear my console really quick. I'm going to use Node. And check my directory first. Looks like I'm not in the right directory, so I'm going to change into the source folder. Then I'll use Node to execute this JavaScript file. So here it says, welcome to the challenge. It's reading from the environment file. I can see my account, configuring new HTS token. Looks like I can click on this, see where it takes me. Okay, so it looks like this is where I am in the code at the moment. So I expect that it's going to run all of this. Let me go ahead and hit enter to proceed. Oh, looks like I got an error. Let's see. Error must configure a name, a symbol, and initial supply for the new token at this line. Let me go ahead and click on that. Oh, yep. So it looks like it doesn't like these empty strings right here. So I'm going to have to give my token name a name. I'll just call it test token, and symbol will be TST. Go ahead and save that file. And let me just run it again, see if I run into any other errors. Gonna hit enter again. Oh, looks like I forgot the initial supply. So didn't like 0. Go ahead and set that to 7,000. Try to run that again. At this point, I'm kind of thinking if there's a set of instructions that maybe I should have been following. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this README. There's a lot of words here, so it's okay. So I'm going to abandon the README for now, and I'm just going to continue looking at the purples because the purple seems friendly. Creating the new HTS token, hit the return key when I'm ready to proceed. So it looks like I was actually able to get past one of my errors, and the transaction ID was created, and here's a URL that I could click on. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. It looks like this hash scan looks a little interesting. Everything's none. That doesn't seem right to me. I'm not quite sure why, though. I'm going to continue creating the new HTS token. Oh, look at that. Now there's a new token ID. So it looks like here we were just configuring something. Now I'd like to view it. Yes, I'd like to view this on HashScan. So, oh, like that. So I completed the challenge. If I go back to HashScan, I can see that here's the name of my token, here's the symbol, and my supply of 7,000 is where it's supposed to be. Looks like there's some summary metrics. I wonder what that does. Has completed a task. Looks like it's true. I was successful in doing that. I completed the first task named 5-minute HTS token launch challenge. Took me 9 minutes. And looks like I completed some more tasks. Okay. It looks like I can see my metrics on HashScan. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'd like to come back to the facilitator and sort of show that I finished, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to do.
No, that's excellent. Thank you very much for doing that. So that was the unguided challenge, and based on such minimal instruction, and essentially me not saying anything much, you were able to complete it. So that's great. And before I tell you my observations, how about yours? Like, what did you think? Was there any part where you think it could be improved?
Yeah, I think after you leave me from the guided one, it'd be great if you pointed me to the instructions that I should probably start from. And then in addition, I feel like some of the instructions here were difficult to read. So I ended up just going through the purple ones, but the purple ones actually worked pretty well. I liked the conciseness of those.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for that. One of the things I wanted to point out was that I learned something today about this tutorial, which is that the hashcan URL for the transaction was printed out slightly before it should have been, right? So if you refresh this now, you will see that there's a transaction. So the reason for that was that it printed it out while the transaction existed locally, but hadn't been processed by the network yet. So I need to modify the tutorial such that it happens one step later rather than where it was. So that's a blind spot, which we have identified together today.
Yeah, that was confusing.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you go back to Gitpod, I just wanted to ask you what you thought about the summary metrics.
Yeah, the summary metrics were interesting. I felt like it took me less time than 9 minutes here. So I wasn't sure what the difference between this time to first task and this time taken to complete is.
Right. Yeah, perhaps I should include an explanation for that in the tutorial. So the time to first task completion, like on the third line of the output, that refers to time to hello world, right? So that includes everything like doing all the setup script plus running the tutorial itself, which is, the script. So that's what it's after. But then if you take a look at the completed tasks, you can see that you have time taken to complete for the first time and the final time that you did it. And so basically it indicates that you've done it 3 times and successful on the third time, and this is the duration that you took. Yeah. So that's the idea. Yeah. So did you feel like it lived up to the name of 5-minute token launch challenge?
I feel like it really did.
Okay.
I also really like the consensus service being used here. Where is it? Right here.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much, Abby, for participating in this usability test.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay. So that's the end of the usability test. So, now we're back to not role play mode. And I hope you took away from it a couple of things. One is that we do have a 5-minute token launch challenge, and we encourage all of you to take part in it as well. So it is very minimal input. I think the version 1 of that tutorial would have taken just 20 to 30 minutes for the average developer to even set up the prerequisites on their computer. But now that's all automated and scripted and running in the cloud via Gitpod. So, as we saw just now, it took, just a few minutes to get ready. The second thing is that I hope that you take away is that here at Hedera, the DevRel team is constantly trying to improve the developer experience for all of you. So, and this is one of the tools that we use to do it. And, you've seen it live in action as well. So in the future, we'll be running more usability tests. And rather than role-playing, we'd like to do it on actual developers from the Hedera community, which is yourselves, all of you tuning in. So when that happens, be sure to sign up as participants. All right. So the live demo is complete now. And if you would like to participate in the 5-minute token launch challenge, go ahead and scan the QR code. You will see these tweets. I'd like you to not only complete the challenge, but also participate in the Twitter challenge as well, right? The Twitter poll, I should say, as well. And let me know if you completed it in under 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes, got stuck, or just want to see the results. Either way, right? Yeah, just want to get a very brief overview of how this challenge is doing. All right. So introducing our next speaker, Joseph. Joseph is a principal software engineer at Hashgraph who works across teams to fill in gaps and smooth rough edges. He's had about 30 years of experience in government, aerospace, healthcare, industrial automation, mixed signal EDA. I don't even know what that is, but I guess you can explain it. Banking and finance, and has been in the space since the days of the Z80, where he wrote his first program. Yeah, and he has been part of the early internet, hyperscaling distributed systems and decentralized applications. So, and has been advocating open source software and open standards for over 20 years, which is thematic for today's topic. So over to you, Joseph. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Brendan. I have to say, when I wrote my first little program on a TRS-80 in the late 1970s, I absolutely never imagined working on the type of technology we have here in the Hedera network. And it's amazing to be working on these systems. Here at Hashgraph, I'm working, as you said, across teams to help fill gaps, smooth rough edges I can find, and make sure that our distributed application developers have a smoother experience and that the Hedera network operates as reliably as possible. Next slide. What I'm discussing here today is HIP 1037, which is protocol buffer specification. One of the rough edges we have currently is that our API documentation for our protocol buffer defined gRPC API is less than ideal. Much of the encode documentation is a little brief, it's unclear, some of it's inaccurate, and occasionally it's outright missing. The semi-handwritten web pages that we publish are a little better, but they're still not updated as frequently as we'd like. So I accepted the task to improve that situation. And while it won't be perfect, I've submitted TIP 1037 along with a broad rewrite of the encode documentation for our protocol buffer messaging to bring the API documentation to a level that we can automatically generate full API documents that are clean, usable, and easily accessible. With this HIP and the associated code changes, the specification will be generated directly from the protocol buffer definitions using standard tools, much the way the Java API is generated from Java source code with the JavaDoc tool. On this slide, you can see the current state. It's not great. This is a section of the Hedera consensus service, specifically the update topic transaction. You can see that there's a brief bit of information, a link that doesn't quite work, and one of the more important fields is marked undocumented. And on the right, you can see the web page that's generated from that. It's not what we'd like. So we can do a lot better, and we should. And that's what this HIP does. On this slide, you can see the update. This is the same example. The message has useful requirements and information. It's easier to understand what you have to do to submit this message and what you can expect when you do. The field is describing what it contains, whether it needs to be set, and any additional requirements that may apply. The rendered documentation is clear, it's accurate, and the links are rendered correctly. The generated documentation is GitHub flavored Markdown, which means it's easily rendered in whatever development tooling you prefer, and you can view it directly in GitHub once it's generated. Next slide. So HIP 1037 very simply rewrites the encode documentation comments to form an API specification. So it's not just what does this do, but really how do I use these things? What do I have to do to successfully call all of these APIs? We document everything that's currently undocumented. We fix some bad characters that make reading the files a little bit difficult in some cases. We make the headers consistent. We correct outdated and inaccurate information. We can now automatically produce clean, readable, useful API specifications. And the entire goal is to make learning and using the Hedera API easier and a lot less frustrating. We've also published some style guidelines to help our developers and any open source contributors that wish to assist in producing a better specification and improving this going forward. The HIP is a starting point. We hope to improve this further over time. That's all I got.
Thanks, Joseph. If I may be cheeky, I'd like to see this done for JSON RPC as well. Not just for Hedera, but in the Web3 space in general. Like what the kind of code-generated documentation or auto-generated documentation that needs to be done in a lot of areas, and it's not just for the protocol buffers. Yeah, but got to start somewhere, right? So I'm looking forward to that hit for sure.
Yes, this is a starting point. We hope to do more.
Excellent. All right, so now we'll have a very, very brief interlude. And this is where I'd like to highlight various aspects of the Hedera developer community, right? So one of the things that I want to bring up is that we have a fairly active Stack Overflow tag, right? So you can use the Hedera tag or the Hedera Hashgraph tag. They're aliases for each other. And if you have a technical question, you're strongly encouraged to ask it on Stack Overflow because it's public, it's searchable, it produces a long-term body of knowledge. So that will help other developers in the community in the future, if not just you're solving your immediate problem. The other thing is that we're doing pretty well, right? In terms of like, if you ask a question of Stack Overflow, you're far more likely to get answered, when you ask about Hedera than you are about, like, say, other Web3 projects or technologies. So that's been noticed by someone who's not even from the Hedera community. But, I just wanted to highlight that as well with the tweet on the right. All right. But for non-public questions, right, we also have a Discord. So if you go to hedera.com/Discord, you'll get an invite to join the Hedera Discord. And there have been a lot of questions by default being asked in the chat. The thing with the chat is that it scrolls up really fast and it's very hard for us to track. Discord isn't exactly very good in its search function, right? But what it does have is a new feature, and by new, I mean a year and a half old, I think, if I remember correctly, called a forum. And this is much better suited to asking the technical questions. So if you're on our Discord, please use the developer help desk, right, channel, which looks like this, but this isn't actually a chat channel, right? It is a forum. So if you ask a question, then it's threaded accordingly. And this is much, much better for searchability and reuse in the future. All right. So that's it from me for the brief interlude. Now I'd like to introduce you to Sahil, who is a developer advocate at QuickNode. Sahil, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Brandon, and the entire Hedera team for having me over here for this community call. And that being said, to everyone watching, I am Sahil Sen. I work on the developer relations team at QuickNode as a senior developer advocate. And my day-to-day job looks like creating educational content. It can be written, it can be videos. I'm focusing a lot more on video content right now, like which are not just related to QuickNode, but also covers a lot of general blockchain topics or general blockchain protocols. So that is about me. And if you want to connect with me, you can see all the handles on the screen over here. Excellent. And what we will be doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something really quick. Like, I have been a fan of the way that QuickNode creates its educational content, right? It is just very well done. So I'm really excited to have you present today to the Hedera developer community as well. And we're hoping to, build that bridge and strengthen it. So thank you very much for being on today.
For sure. And now that we have Hedera support, and we are in front of the community, and we want to get more in front of the entire Hedera community. So probably, like Brendan or with Abby, we will be creating a lot more go across the ecosystem, like tutorials and blog posts and guides, so that so that the community of Hedera can benefit from QuickNode and its tools as well, and of course the tutorials.
Thank you. Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Right. So what we will be seeing today is how QuickNode can help you develop on the Hedera blockchain. So you already saw a demo from Abby and Brendan that they have created a lot of sample apps around how you can get started quickly with the Hedera development and how you can get started within few clicks. But the thing is that you must have seen in the environment variable that there was a space for RPC URL. Now, what that is. So, Brendan, if you go to the next slide, we a lot of you who are already developing in the Web3 space or in the blockchain space might have heard or might have used RPC URLs. So why that those URLs or why those component of two links are important, we will understand that very briefly. I won't be taking a lot of your time, but we will understand that very briefly. So the thing is that most of the chain foundations or almost all of the chains, they have public endpoint URLs which you can use in your projects or which you can use in testing. But the thing with those public URLs is that, of course, because they are free and available for everyone, they are there on the internet, so they have to be rate limited. Everyone can use it, right? So there can be some people who may be sending like 100 requests per second to that endpoint, and there can be some users who just want like one request per second because they are just in the testing phase. So because because a single entity or single user or single person or individual whatever can abuse that URL or those URLs, that's why they are rate limited, they are IP restricted, each IP can only send certain amount of requests, etc., etc. And now comes the question is that, okay, I get that part. Why cannot I just rent a server or just go to a cloud provider like AWS, GCP, run my own node for whatever blockchain I want to use? I'm not saying that that's not possible. That's 100% possible. But the thing is that it's not feasible. You can even buy an entire server machine, run it in your backend, like in your backyard or in your room, and host your website from your room or backyard. But nobody does that because it's not feasible. We use cloud providers and we deploy our services and websites on these hosted cloud services. The same goes for blockchain nodes. To host your own self-hosted node, what you'll need to do is so first of all, I would like to appreciate all of the chain foundations that they do a very extensive and comprehensive and like heavy lifting in explaining how to like run their nodes. Plus the thing is that they create these node clients which are basically like your operating systems on which these node runs. So okay, I'm just getting ahead of myself. First, let me explain what a node basically is before getting into how to run a node and why you would need QuickNode, etc., etc. So the thing is that blockchain is a decentralized environment or a network, right? And each stakeholder or participant participating in the blockchain network as a read and write operative or as a miner or validator is a node, or they have to be a node, or they have to run a node. You as a user who just wants to interact with the blockchain, you do not need to be a node. But the thing is that you will need access to the node because this entire network is ran on top of these decentralized nodes. And these nodes does a lot of things. They help you secure the network. They help you maintain the integrity of the data of the network. They help you mine transactions. If it's a miner node, they help you validate transactions. If it's a validator node, depends on the type of consensus mechanism. On Hedera, it will be a validator. So the thing is that node, you can assume a node from a user's point of view who just wants to do a read and write operations on the blockchain, who just wants to read data from the blockchain, send transactions on the blockchain. From a user's point of view, you can understand a node as a gateway to that particular blockchain ecosystem, which helps you talk to that blockchain network, which helps you send data on that blockchain network. So you as a user, yes, can go to Hedera's documentation, can read how to run your own node. But the thing is that with that, the first thing you'll require is some hardware which you will need to run that node on, and that those hardware will have to be highly spec, because the thing is, to run your own node, first and foremost thing you'll have to do is you'll have to sync the entire blockchain right from the Genesis block up until the current block, and you'll have to keep that node running. And because blockchains have become so powerful and so fast right now, the amount of data which we get on these chains and the amount of data which needs to go on the node is enormous. So you'll need a lot of storage space. On top of that, you need a lot of memory space in terms of processing. And let's say that you have accomplished that. You have successfully synced your entire blockchain on your blockchain node right from the Genesis block up until the latest block. You are successful in that. But then the second challenge comes into the picture, the challenge of maintaining that node. Because the thing is that blockchains have become so fast that a lot of the times these infrastructure or these hardwares cannot keep up with the speed of the block production, because a lot of the times currently blocks can be produced in seconds, or in some chains in milliseconds. So these hardware a lot of time fail to keep up with the speed of the block production and falls behind. So the main thing, or the main uh, problem or issue which blockchain solves, is data integrity, or permissionless or trustless data. Whatever data you see on blockchain or you get from blockchain, you can safely assume that it's correct, right? But if the blockchain state is not up to date, or if you're getting data from a past blockchain state, you cannot like say that that is the correct data, because let's say that a wallet's address was 10 tokens two blocks back, but it got updated to, let's say, 5 tokens, because they sent 5 tokens or they spent 5 tokens somewhere or staked whatever. So it got updated right within, let's say, 2-3 blocks. So the state of the blockchain updated, the state of that particular wallet got updated. So you cannot just use a past state of the blockchain to work with anything. So that is why you need the latest state. So if your node gets behind, or if your node falls out of the sync and is not able to keep up with the blockchain's speed, you will have to stop that node again, resync those lost blocks, and then your node can be used again. So these kind of things happen quite frequently, and you'll have to continuously monitor that. And on top of that, you'll have to continuously keep on adding more resources as the chain moves forward. So it becomes kind of a full-time job for a person on your team to just monitor those nodes, or just maintain those nodes, or even an entire team in some cases. So the solution here becomes using a solution like QuickNode, where you can just sign up for a particular blockchain, create those nodes, and you will get endpoints to those nodes, which you can use to send requests or send transactions or fetch data from. So we will see that how we can do that. But this was just a brief overview of what it looks like to running your own node. And then if we go to the next slide, we can see some benefits of QuickNode compared to other providers. I know it sounds like shilling, but I just want to make sure that each and every developer gets the best possible tooling. So just to cut short, I won't be taking a lot time to cover this because I don't want to completely shill the tooling or product. So to be quick, you can assume that QuickNode is like 2.5x to 5x faster than other providers. If you want to check out the proof behind this, there are a lot of public dashboards running in the backend. You can just go to blog.quicknode.com to check those out, and you will find the blog post on that, which will have the links to the dashboard. And on top of that, we have 99.9% network availability. We right now supports almost 45 chains across the ecosystem, across the industry, with almost all the popular chains and layer 1s and layer 2s. And on top of that, we have active Discord community support for our free plans. We also have a free plan. So if you're on a free plan, you can just go to Discord and get support from the community members or from QuickNode moderators. And for paid plans, we have like dedicated supports via dedicated support channels. And to give you a perspective of what we serve daily is we serve more than 8 billion plus RPC requests across all of our blockchains, which, if you want to look into a perspective, is more than the number of Google searches daily. Yes, if you will look at the number of requests which goes behind Google search, they will be different. But just to give you a perspective of the number of Google search compared to the number of RPC requests QuickNode serves. And for everyone who looks for compliant or security certifications for using toolings, we are SOC 1 and SOC 2 compliant, so you do not have to worry about your data or your financial data. So that being said, let's just look at how your journey would look like if you were to develop on Hedera using QuickNode.
All right, Sahil, we ready to do a switch over to your screen now?
Yep, so sounds good. All right, so the first step would be obviously to sign up for a QuickNode account, which you can do so by going to quicknode.com and creating an account. So after doing that, you will be you will come to this page, which is the home screen page, and everything will be empty for you as a user, because at that point, when you have a new account, you won't have any of the data or any of the endpoints. But to use Hedera, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to endpoints, and then even when you go to endpoints, you won't see any of these, because this is my personal account. I have these endpoints already created. I have those and you can see them. But for you, it will be completely empty. And to create your Hedera endpoint, you will have to click on create endpoint, then look for Hedera from the list of available chains, select that and click continue. So what I'll do is I will create a Hedera testnet endpoint, but you can select from either of the network based on your requirement. Then I'll click continue. All right, so at this point, you will be shown with the available marketplace add-on, which you can install on your endpoint. So marketplace is basically like an app store where the other third-party tooling providers can integrate their apps on the QuickNode marketplace, and those apps, or we call them add-ons, can be installed on top of the QuickNode endpoints. And some of them are internal, some of them are externals. Internal meaning that you can just so internal meaning once you install those add-ons, you get a custom namespace or a custom RPC method, which you can call directly on your QuickNode endpoint. You do not have to go anywhere or sign up for those third-party tooling on different platforms. You can do everything right within your QuickNode dashboard and right from your QuickNode RPC add-ons, RPC endpoints. So for Hedera, we have this Forex API, add-on available, which you can use to get token prices in fiat and token prices in other tokens, or vice versa. So once you click on create add-on, after that, you can see that we have a HTTP bus and a WebSocket provider. And along with that, you get some developer resources over here, which you can just like click to copy in different languages and get started using the endpoint. And then you can also take a look at sample projects, deploy your first smart contract. You'll get all the scripts over here, and then some recommended examples. So now you may think that why you have two endpoints or two API endpoints or two RPC endpoints. So the thing is that there are two kinds of connections or two kinds of interactions with a blockchain. The first is read and the second is write. So the thing is that both of these endpoints can do both of those operations, but each one specializes in a type of operation. So let's say that you want to just read or just write data to the blockchain. Let's say that you want to get a transaction data from the blockchain, from the Hedera chain, or you want to send a transaction to the chain. You will use a HTTP provider because you are doing singleton operations or single operations. You are just interacting with the blockchain once. Let's say you are reading, so you are sending a request to the blockchain node and getting the data, single operation. And let's say that you want to send a transaction, so you sign the transaction, send the transaction to the blockchain node, and then that transaction gets confirmed and finalized. Again, single operation. But in some cases, what you might want to do is you might want to track changes happening on the blockchain. For example, let's say that you want to track a particular smart contract, and whenever that particular smart contract does a certain thing, let's say that it executes a certain function, you want to get notified about that. Or let's say that whenever the address of a particular wallet address changes, or let's say a wallet address receives a transaction, stuff like that. So you want to track particular activities happening on the blockchain. You will have to continuously keep on checking on the blockchain node for those changes to happen. You will have to continuously keep checking if those changes happened or not. So for those kind of operation where you need to continuously check on the blockchain node for different changes or something to happen, you'll have to establish a continuous connection with the blockchain node. You do not just read or you do not just write in single operations, but you need to establish duplex connection with the blockchain node, where you are reading and receive, like where you are requesting and getting the response in one channel, in one duplex channel. So you establish a constant connection with the blockchain node for tracking those activities, and that becomes possible with a WebSocket provider. So just like how in your web applications you have a WebSocket which continuously keeps on listening for change, and whenever a particular API sends some data to WebSocket, you get that data from WebSocket and do something with that in your application. Similar to that, these WebSocket providers are used to keep on track different changes or different activities happening on the blockchain. Now, to use this, what you can do is you can simply go to quicknode.com/docs, where you will find the RPC documentation for Hedera. So once you are on quicknode.com/docs, just navigate to chains RPC/REST API section, scroll down a bit, and then you'll find the Hedera chain. And inside that, you will find the core EVM JSON RPC APIs, along with some debug APIs, and you'll also find Hedera mirror node REST APIs. So you'll have to just for a note, and just on a side note, the Ethereum JSON RPC API and debug API are available for mainnet and testnet both, but the Hedera mirror node REST API are just available on the testnet as of now. So let's say that you signed up for the RPC endpoint, you have your RPC endpoint, and you want to just use the endpoint. So if you're familiar with other EVM chains, or if you're familiar with Ethereum in general, you will be able to use the RPC endpoint right away. You will just have to replace the RPC endpoint for those particular chain and change the chain IDs, and it will be good to go. But if you're new, these are the RPC methods using which you can interact with the blockchain. So this is the most basic one, which is ETH block number. So if you can copy the example from here, and you can also get the examples in various libraries like ethers.js, Web3Py, etc. So I'm just going to do a simple curl example. So what I'll do first is replace the docs RPC endpoint with the actual RPC endpoint. All right. And now to run this, let's paste this and okay. So as you can see that we have got the latest block number. It's very basic and simple RPC method, but this is just to show you that how you can send a request to the endpoint for a RPC method. That RPC will get resolved on the server side, which is node, and you'll get the response. So this is the block number which we have got in the hex format. And similarly, you can use all of these other methods to interact with the blockchain. Some are read only, some are write, like send raw transaction, etc. And if you're new to the blockchain development and are not familiar with EVM methods, or are not familiar with how RPCs work, you can go to etherflow.quicknode without a C, like QUIKNODE.io, and you will be taken to this user interface where you can interact with the RPC methods without actually running code. But this will be live and will consume credits, etc. So what you can do is you can simply paste your RPC URL over here, and once you do that, it will check for the validity of the URL, and if everything passes, you will get the green dots over here. Let me zoom in a bit. And then you'll get the latest block, you'll get the node client on which the RPC URL is based on, or on which the node is running on. So the Hedera node is running on the relay node client of version 0.5.4. And after that, you can just select either of the Web3 libraries, ethers.js, Web3.js. And from here, you can similarly send the request to the node. For example, send request to the node. And as you can see, we have got the block number, but now in decimal format, because we have used ethers.js instead of sending a raw curl request to the RPC node. And if you wanted to get the examples from here as well, you can get those by clicking this view sample code. So I think that will be it. It was very straightforward and very simple, because you just have to sign up for the endpoint, and then you will find whole like the entire documentation over here, the RPC documentation around which methods we support, which APIs we support, etc. And after that, if you were to if you were looking for particular things like how to deploy smart contracts or how to create different kinds of smart contracts, etc., you can go to guides section and navigate to the Ethereum development part. And if you go to smart contracts, you will find different kinds of smart contracts. So most of the stuff under the Ethereum development part should work from Hedera out of the box. But if you have any specific ideas, or if you want to see a specific guide on here, feel free to DM us on Twitter or DM me on Twitter, and we'll get that done. We'll work on that and we'll publish that. And apart from that, we also have a YouTube channel, which I mentioned in the beginning of the demo. We have a YouTube channel. We recently crossed 10K, and we post a YouTube video around blockchain, around protocols, around how to do X with QuickNode, how to do Y with QuickNode, or just basically how to do X on blockchain. We publish a video on every Friday. So if you want, you can check that out as well. And yeah, I mean, we just want to offer all forms of content. Some people are visual learners, some people are good with documentation. They can just look at documentation and get started. So we basically offer everything. And again, if you want to see a particular guide on Hedera, feel free to DM me, and we'll work on that and publish that.
Awesome, thanks for that. I've also just linked in the live stream the docs, quicknode.com/docs/Hedera. So yeah, I think that would be a great starting point. Cool. All right, so thank you very much, Sahil, for that explanation and demo. I just wanted to add one more thing before we wrap up about your comment earlier on. You said, I think every blockchain, like if you wanted to run your own node, like you'd have one person dedicated full time. In my experience, I've never seen one person be able to handle that. They must sleep 0 hours or something. In reality, it's always been an entire team. So yeah, it's definitely a great service. The other thing as well is cost. I would say that running your own node for a blockchain that or DLT in any form that is, the size of Hedera, like, that costs like a 6-digit or 7-digit sum a year, right? Just on your just your AWS bills alone, right? So like any large blockchain would have that to deal with. So definitely cost is a big factor, and I believe QuickNode is a premium, right? Like a plan, so you get up to a certain amount of requests per. Yeah. Excellent. So you're getting all that infrastructure, with all that level of reliability that costs a large amount of money, and you're getting that for free at a lower scale level.
Exactly. So you mentioned that those cloud bills, those AWS bills can go really high, and you need a dedicated team to maintain that, right? And the thing is that it's just not efficient for a team who does not have like an infrastructure product, because the thing is that those resources, that money, and those developer hours can be used to work on actual products, like instead of like managing infrastructure all the time.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that I find interesting is that in most RPC providers, they have just one endpoint, and then you mentioned you had two, and that's like a very good example. Or I don't know why other RPC providers don't do it, where you have CQRS, right? So you separate your commands and your queries. And so I think that's like a interesting architectural choice. So yeah. Anyway, I hope all of you Hedera developers out there consider building on QuickNode. And thank you very much once again to Sahil for that excellent demo. So now it's time to do a wrap. All right. So very briefly, this is what we covered. We covered Stack Overflow, not the rest of it. And then we also covered how to build on Hedera with Abby as a participating in a usability test. Then Joseph also covered HIT 1037 about protocol buffer specification. Looking forward to more automated documentation and more up-to-date documentation, with a source of, where the code is the source of truth on that front. Definitely useful to have. And also we had a demo of how to use an RPC provider, QuickNode, on Hedera. So that's that was what we covered today. So if you have any questions, right, I've dropped the link into the Twitter live, the live tweets that I've done, a Twitter thread. So feel free to drop your replies in there with any questions or discussions, or even in the YouTube comments as well. Up to you where you want to do it. And you could even do it in hedera.com/discord as well. So that's your other option. For now, thank you very much for tuning in live, and also thank you for anyone who is watching this asynchronously as well, like on a replay. So we hope that you continue to build on Hedera and let us know how you go when you do. Ciao. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
It started with a vision for how the internet should work, how it could work.
It really should be possible for anyone to just kind of wave their hand and carve out a piece of cyberspace and create a world of their own.
But the technology to achieve such a vision simply did not exist.
There's no way that you can have really high throughput and also have all these security and fairness properties. I was able to convince myself it's not possible. And I set it aside, and it would come back and haunt me, and it would keep nagging at me. And so I would pick it up again and set it aside again. And this kept going for years.
3 years later, Lehman had a breakthrough, the hashgraph consensus algorithm. In 2015, Mance and Lehman founded Swirls to battle test the algorithm in private permissioned environments. And the following year, Lehman published the technical paper. But in order to realize the vision of a fairer, more secure digital future for all, the world needed a trust layer, a public ledger built on Hashgraph.
Okay, it looks like we are down to the final seconds here.
3, 2, 1. Open access.
The network is open. As of this moment, we have council member nodes online, ready to take transactions from anyone, anywhere in the world.
Since open access, Hedera has witnessed exponential growth on the network, with billions of real-world transactions, hundreds of applications, and tens of thousands of ecosystem developers. The Hedera Council has gone from strength to strength, growing to 29 members on 6 continents, stewarding the network responsibly and ensuring its longevity for generations to come. Hello, future.